Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. This episode I think you're going to love. This has been one of my favorites because it's very rare that you find a company that has really nailed it, has really figured out what drives their customers to actually buy, what they care about and what their customers care about. Today I have Brendan King. He is the CEO and co-founder of this great company. I just happened to find him on the internet. I didn't even understand what his company did. I couldn't figure it out. I'm not really sure now either, but the whole model, the whole sales model that they have is really brilliant. I think you're really going to get this. And I'm just trying to figure out, how do I apply it to my business? And I think you're all going to kind of come away from this and go, wow, that doesn't fit my business. And it's like, right, yeah, okay. But what we have to do is figure out something similar, some way of helping our customers help their customers relative to our product or service. That's what we really need. That drives engagement and have that interaction with them, that conversation. What's going on today is we're moving away from content to conversation because there's too much content out there. People want to engage. They want to interact. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So this is all about figuring out what is the tipping point for your customers to actually take action and purchase your product or service. So we're going to get into it. Hey, I really appreciate everybody who supports the podcast by writing a review. Make sure you're checking out the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast as well. This week I have Jeb Blunt, the author of Fanatical Prospecting, and we talk about what's working today in sales and B2B. So let's get into the interview. Hey, Brandon, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to.
Sure. So, here at Vendasta, we think of ourselves as, we try to aspire to be anyway, the number one platform for selling digital solutions to local business. And the way that we do that is we sell through resellers. It's our belief that businesses want to buy from somebody they trust and know. And so, we leverage the relationship of existing resellers and help them to sell a whole host of digital products to local businesses.
And how'd you get into this?
It's a long story, as all stories are wont to be. We started, we didn't have this plan. When we started, we were going to build an application that was going to be called My Front Steps. It was going to be a solution for homeowners, where homeowners could share their, ideas and get inspiration from their friends and family. But more importantly, they'd be able to find a service provider like a realtor, a contractor, a painter, a landscaper that they'd known and trusted, that their friends had used and trusted. And so, and on the service side, we're going to build a reputation tool, and we were going to connect those two things together. But we were, it was 2007, and we were ahead of our time. And now there's many services like Thumbtack and House that are like that. But we found this huge demand for reputation management, and so we took that to market. And in a past life, we had sold to, I had a business that sold to about 170,000 realtors. So we knew that selling to small businesses is like herding cats, and that the cost of acquisition is extremely high. And so we wanted to leverage, people that already had a relationship with small businesses and give them incremental products to sell. So we took our reputation products to market, and we started with, in the space where the disruption was the biggest, which was the yellow pages in newspapers. As you might remember, in 2008, 9, 10, their revenue was falling off a cliff as the world changed. And that's where we started, providing our digital suite of products, and we've now transformed into a platform to help anyone that sells to small businesses sell at scale.
And who's your ideal customer then? Is it just a small business that has a digital product, or?
Yeah, so as I said, we sell to resellers who sell to small businesses.
Yep.
So, our ideal customers are folks that already have a relationship and want to add value on that side. And particularly, it's people that sold advertising. Because as what's changed in the world, I used to be in retail. And from 1989 to 1999, I had a little couple of chain of 2 computer stores up here in Canada, and all I needed was a yellow page ad, a newspaper, a radio spot or a TV spot, maybe do some flyer drops, some bus boards and outdoor. And when people wanted more information, they only had the choice of either looking me up in the phone book and calling me, or coming to my store. And in both those cases, I had a chance to sell. But what's changed now is that, you still do advertising, so people they know about you, but the marketing stack beyond that's changed, because the first thing they do is they Google you, whether it's on their computer or whether it's on their phone. And if they can't find you, the person that did that ad, he just paid for his competitor's demand. So you have to have great listings, right?
Yeah.
So we say the best place to hide a dead body is on the second page of the Google search results. Because nobody goes there, right? So your listings got to be good. And then after your listings are good, people look at your website and they make a decision. They look at the ratings and reviews. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, geez, I want to go and get a haircut from a 2-star barber. They just don't. And they, they want some ratings, they want some reviews. So you have to have a stellar reputation. And then you have to be liked, so your social has to be good. And you got to be able to convert them either in store or online on the website. And then you have to keep them with CRM loyalty. So that entire stack needs to be sold in conjunction with advertising. So all the folks that are selling, TV, radio, newspaper, those are our ideal customers. That was a long-winded answer, by the way. But those are our ideal customers because we make advertising better and we make it work.
Yeah, that's true. Like you, I owned a small business right when Google AdWords, they just announced it early in like 2001. And I was on it, and we grew this tiny little business from like nothing. It doubled every year. And it was so simple because the keyword was cheap. And we had our competition was literally across the street and about 10 times the size of us. And it was just amazing. That is how people have changed. That the ads and stuff are much less effective than they used to be, especially for people in market.
You nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how'd you go about selling this concept?
Well, it's funny. So obviously they knew they had to do something because the revenue was falling off. And I like to, we're a Canadian company, but 95% of our revenues in the U.S. We have U.S. employees now, so we don't even consider ourselves a Canadian company, really a U.S. company, about 260 people, about 100 are software developers. But when we started, we ran into this thing. And the concept, have you ever heard of a thing called Amara's Law?
I haven't, no. What is that?
What it says is that we tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short run, but we drastically underestimate the effect in the long run. And so what happened was, you talked about it exactly. In 2001, Google AdWords came out, and a lot of these media companies, they freaked out. And they bought companies, and they didn't know how to run them, and they lost a lot of money. And so that's, in the short term, they went, they had some panic. But long term, they realized, hey, they woke up and the next day and they weren't dead and their business didn't fall, drastically decline. So it's like, putting a frog in hot water, it jumps right out, but you put it in warm water and heat it up, it'll boil in there. And so this is what Amara's Law really did. So a lot of these companies that didn't have that drastic change right away said, oh, the internet, who cares about it? And then long time, you see a lot of problems now with newspapers and yellow page companies basically shutting down and being amalgamated because they didn't embrace technology fast enough. On the other side, we've got some great partners who did embrace it. 50% of their revenue is digital. They really understood it. And so so for us, it was really convincing people that they couldn't stay where they are. It's not comfortable. They needed to make a change, and they needed to sell, what would make their advertising effective, which included that foundational suite of products, which is listings, reputation, and social media management.
Excellent. Now, getting those first customers to take on this new concept, what marketing and sales approach did you take? Was it a direct sales approach, or were you advertising yourself?
What we did was we were a smaller company then, and it was myself and a couple, a co-founder and who is now our CRO. And we went to, we became the industry experts. So we went to newspaper conferences and yellow page conferences, and we made friends with folks. People like to do business with people they like. And we went after bigger customers because there was only a few of us. As we've grown, we always had that demand from all these smaller agencies that wanted it too. But we needed to be able to service them properly. So now as we've grown, what we've done is we've gone down market to be able to handle those customers that have a lower annual contract value, or ACV. So we've moved to a segmented sales model, and we are teaching our customers to do the same thing when they're selling to small businesses. And a segmented sales model involves a sales development rep who basically just books appointments, either based on inbound or outbound calling and prospecting. And then our business development reps, or BDRs, will then follow up and do the presentation and close those deals. They then move on to a success-based organization who then make sure they don't get compensated on selling. They get compensated on making sure those customers are successful. Because in our model, we only succeed if we call them partners, but our resellers succeed because they need to sell to small businesses. If they don't start selling products to small businesses, we don't make any money. So we need them to succeed. So our success teams do that, and then we have, we layer back in account executives who will come back in and upsell those resellers. So that's our model.
That's classic SaaS sales model. Yeah. How long did it take to evolve that, or did you start that approach? 2.5
years. We're very scientific about it. We think we have a repeatable, scalable model. We like to drink our own champagne. We used to say eat our own dog food, but we use our own tool to do that, and we have a very unique way of selling that we think is really important.
Care to share? any non-trade secrets you'd like to share with us?
No, it's actually not a real big secret. So I'm sure you're familiar with Inbound and HubSpot's invention.
Yeah.
Well, it's fantastic. So a lot of organizations try to create content, and then folks sort of self-identify, hold their hand up and say, hey, I'm ready, and then people sell them. The problem with media organizations selling to small businesses is that just can't feed your family. So what we've done is we basically built out a what we call a local prospecting tool that our resellers and their sort of 8,000 salespeople can send out to all of their current customers that they were buying traditional from and say, hey, we've got all these digital products. But what we send them is a valuable report. It's a local marketing index about their business. So it tells them, how their advertising looks compared to their competitors. It tells them how many reviews they have and how their review scores compare. If their listings are correct online and how they compare to their industry, what their website looks like and what Google says needs to be fixed. And we built this report, and it's all about the business. And so we send it out to the business, and that business then interacts with it, and our AI watches, and over time it says, hey, this guy's ready to engage, and here's the thing he wants to talk about. Because the key insight that we've found is that it's not really the need state of the small business that determines if there's a sale or not. It's whether they're ready or not. So I'll give you an example. If a business doesn't have a website, they're often the hardest people to sell a website to because they've never had one. They don't feel like they need one. They're not really there. Yeah, maybe, or if they have a poor website. But if you show them in this report that their baby's ugly, and it's not you saying it, it's Google saying it, then they're ready to do something to get it fixed. And so when they engage that, the most important factor for a small business, because they've got a lot of things going on. Their staff's not showing up, deliveries are coming, bills to pay. And so we need to get them at the time when they're ready to engage. And so that's what we do. We basically send that data out in a big report, then bunch it up into little pieces of emails and little segments and send it to them and watch what they're engaging with. And when they basically raise their hand, we tell our partner salespeople, this guy's ready to engage, and he really wants to know about advertising. Maybe it's Google AdWords or maybe it's his website. And then the rep can call and sell. But it does, so that's really it. And there's a lot more to it, and I can go into it if you like, but really our whole mission is to help our partners acquire new customers, retain the one they have, and then upsell more things to those customers or grow them.
That's brilliant. Did you get that from HubSpot when they had like the website grader?
Not really. But yes, we didn't, we were thinking about a different way. We were trying to sell reputation management at the time. And so we built this, we called it a sales tool, and it was simply just to help our partners sell reputation. But we then realized that, hey, this is the same concept that HubSpot has. HubSpot uses it passively. So they put it out there and you can get your site graded. We use it actively. We take in the names of the businesses, so we can do it like 10,000 at a time and build these reports just with the name and the phone number and send them out on behalf of the reseller.
That is great. I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's valuable. It's useful to you and them. And all of a sudden you have an icebreaker, a reason to talk, and data that you've already added value, and now you can explain what more value you can bring to them.
And there's a couple more things it does. So because we can make those reports so quickly and there's no work, so it does the research phase. So, today's salespeople, they'll go on LinkedIn, they'll look at websites, and given their druthers, they'd probably do that all day, some of them. But the real value is when they actually make the call. So we say, you don't have to, boil the ocean. We'll send out those reports and we'll tell you which ones to call. The second thing it does is it educates both the salesperson so he can see where the needs are for the small business, but more importantly, the small business. Because like I said, if you walk in and say you need a new website, and he's like, oh, I already got a website, then it's a tough sale. But if you've shown him that, essentially his website's not sufficient and his baby is ugly, then he's motivated to change. And so that's really important. The third thing it does is it allows our partners to expand back into verticals they've long since, abandoned. So we have one particular case study from a media company in New York that did this case study, and they ended up a 15-year vet in the space said ended up selling a $10,000 advertising package to a barber shop that he walks by every day, and he said, I never would have sold that guy. He's like 76 years old. I didn't believe he would ever have any interest, but it came up as a hot lead. They called and ended up selling the package. So it really expands their ability to find people to sell to.
So in your market, timing is everything. It sounds like that you have to wait or, let them build their own interest over time using your tool.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. We think, well, in fact, the open rates are largely dependent on the brand of the company that's sending them. So, if you're McClatchy and the Kansas City Star, who's a customer of ours, people will open that email because it's a local marketing report from the Kansas City Star who they know. So the open rates are through the roof for good brands. The second thing is the engagement. When the data is about them, the click-throughs go through the roof because it's about them. They want to see what it is. And so then when they engage it, we don't have to sit and wait too often. We've actually throttled the amount of reports we send out because it'll overwhelm the salespeople. And the most important factor is that they contact them in a timely manner. In fact, we've got some statistics about how much closer if you call within a half an hour, how much better the success rate is compared to waiting a day or two. It falls off exponentially.
Yeah, it's a lot like those little conversation boxes on the website. Is it when somebody's on your website that they're there, they're in market,
right.
they're looking. That's the time to answer their questions.
Right now, people expect that in today's day and age too. Like they want action now.
Oh yeah. And so, how are you going to blow this up? How are you going to take this and 2x it, 3x it, 5x it, whatever your goal is?
So we think, like I said, we have 1,100 resellers with about 8,000 salespeople today. So there's, obviously we keep signing new resellers. That's the one way. But when folks ask me the question, exactly as you have, I say we have 3 growth levers. I call them the trifecta of growth levers. Number 1 is penetration. So when we sign up those resellers, we ask them, how many customers do you have? And they tell us, and we add it up, it's about, 10 million. We're only advertising in our system to about 1 million of those a day. So we've got a huge opportunity to increase the penetration with our current customer base. That's number 1. Number 2 is basket size. So, now that we're a platform, we've got a number of products that our resellers can resell. So today, our resellers are, selling about 1.5 things on average to each small business that they sell to. We think we can get that up near term to 5 things. So there's a huge increase in what we call basket size. And then the last lever would be average revenue per paying account, so ARPA. We started out with listings and reputation management, which are low-priced items particularly. But now that we're moving into SEO, websites, website creation, AdWords, targeted display, these are much, much higher average revenue. They don't have the same margin, but they have a huge, even if the margin is 10% on $1,000 ad spend, you still have $100, which is a lot more on a monthly basis than you get out of the reputation or the social or website product. So we can move, way up in terms of ARPA. So those are the 3 growth levers.
Excellent. And how about as far as an exit? Is this just a passion of yours? Is this something you want to do the rest of your life? Or?
Well, we've always told our folks that we want to build a solid company that's built to last. We're, we follow the Jim Collins kind of structure and strategy. We've got a lot of big, hairy, audacious goals. But at the same time, we believe there's opportunities for a PE roll-up market. Where now that we have these products in our marketplace, we can see which of our partners are enabling them. And then maybe we can acquire some of those partners and roll them up and have a strategy there to move forward. We also, have entertained the idea of thinking about, down the road of things like an IPO. You never know. But we're looking at, we're just trying to build a great company. I know that sounds trite, but that's what we're trying to do.
No, it sounds good. What's in your way?
There's nothing in our way.
Come on, it's always something in your way.
Too
much snow or anything?
I always tell them, well, there's only one thing, and that's time.
Yeah.
I can get money, we can get more people, we can get more resources, but you can't make time. And so, we work really hard to move fast. People are always resistant to change. So we're looking for people that, can deal with that, and we're constantly evolving. And so probably, people's reluctance to change and the lack of time would probably be the two biggest obstacles in the way.
And if you had to relive the last 5 years, what would you have done differently as far as growth?
Oh, man, in hindsight, there's a million things you'd do differently. But, that's a confirmation bias. If you were back in that spot with the data that you had, you wouldn't make any different decisions. But given if you could predict the future, obviously I would have bought Apple. No, but it's exactly like that. So you can't look back and challenge those decisions. What you have to do is learn and keep making better decisions with the data that you have.
And what do you see people doing wrong that are in a similar space or trying to grow their business? Not your space, but in the SaaS space, the technology space, the high growth space.
Oh, well, we have a lot of different principles that we've learned over the years because we did a lot of things wrong ourselves. So, we have these sort of guiding principles. We want to be a software as a service platform, so we want to have a single platform, not a bunch of different versions of the software. We see a lot of that. We're white label, and we're leveraging our resellers to sell. A lot of our competitors are also, selling direct, so they're in the boardroom face to face. I don't know if that's wrong. I mean, there's a lot of things to be said about controlling your own destiny, but that's just a differentiator. We build everything with a do-it-for-me and a do-it-yourself interface. A lot of our competitors are saying, oh, small businesses will never do anything themselves. I think they're wrong. I think businesses do what brings them value. I think they're smart. I think, people buy their own plane tickets today because it's harder to explain to somebody what you want than it is to buy the darn thing yourself. So we make sure that we have all those interfaces. We think 10x, not 10%. So when we look at a problem and we try to examine what that problem is, we say, well, we can make it 10% incrementally better, but oftentimes if you step back and just solve it a different way, you can do it 10 times better for the same amount of effort. So we do that a lot. We strive to be disruptive. So and disruptive to us is not whiz-bang technology. It's something that's easy, accessible, and affordable, and that disrupts the market. And so we've started at the small end of the business to be able to service them, go all the way up to brands and franchises. I've got 5 more of these things. We try to be friction-free, self-serve with no hidden configuration. So the things that we do, we try to be best in the world. At one point, we had a product that, was years back. You remember Groupon, and Groupon's still around, but when they were doing their daily deal platform, we'd built one, we'd sold it, and it was doing pretty good. And then we saw at least a dozen companies raise more than $20 million, and we sold ours because we knew that we were, that wasn't really our thing, and we weren't going to be best in the world at it. And we try to solve the right problems, always have the customer's success at heart, so we don't fall in love with our software. We fall in love with our customers' problems. It's super important. We use everything internally. I see a lot of businesses, not do that, and I can't understand it. Salesforce uses Salesforce to build Salesforce. That's a great motto. I love that. Yeah. I got to come up with a good one like that, and that's really the top things that I can think of off the top of my head.
Excellent. For the listeners that want to learn more about your approach and what you're doing, where should they go?
They should go to www.vendasta.com.
Excellent. I'll put that in the show notes. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Hey, was I right? Imagine that, giving your customers, your prospects, a tool that helps them with their customers, and it tells you when they're ready to buy. What a brilliant idea. I mean, the whole model that they've really cracked the code. And as leaders, this is what our job is to figure out the best way to market and sell our product, to always be experiment, always thinking outside of the box and being creative and finding that way, some unique, incredible way. Make sure you checked out last week's episode about Lead Sift, a way of trying to find people in market. Also, check out the show notes by clicking the artwork, and thank our sponsors. We've got nudge.ai to take and monitor your total addressable market. I put a couple videos on the Maverick Method YouTube channel about how I use it and how it works, and how every morning I get my prospects right in bed and get up. Also, Co-Video. Be able to market and sell with email video. This is the hottest thing going, because not only can you tell if they open it, you can tell if they listened and watched it. And video is the way to communicate value, to communicate sincerity, to communicate personalization. It is so much better than text. It's really crushing it out there. Also, Pipedrive. This is the way to take your process and make it visual. Forget that, call it a CRM, call it a whiteboard, call it whatever you want. This is how I model the sales process and keep it visual. I can see all my accounts, where they are, what I have to do next, and what's in the way. Check it all out. Thank you. I really appreciate you telling people about the B2B Revenue Podcast. I've got some great guests coming up. I'm really looking for some CMOs to come on the show. For some reason, CMOs don't like to do interviews. I don't know why. They're responsible for promoting their company. And what better? This is the world's largest C-level podcast. Why not? Come on board. Connect up with me on LinkedIn and send me a little note. Love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.